The world is consumed by AI recently, but fundamentally, what is a large language model? In the ancient times of 2022, people would have to write a lot of repetitive text. Brilliant people decided they should invent a computer program able to predict what text would look like. And this is what a large language model looks like for you. Jokes aside, a large language model is what drives applications like ChatGPT and Claude. Today, we are reviewing the concept so that you can feel intelligent at your next family dinner and not feel totally lost when an AI tech bro rave about something like a context window. First, let's start with a high-level overview. Language models are mathematical functions that accept a series of words and predict what comes next. A really simple example would be if you tried to predict what comes next after "they lived happily." You can easily guess the next word are even after "they lived happily ever after." This is because you can safely predict the next word will be. It will not be the or banana. If you take a bigger example, like completing what comes after this, function hello world, we would likely find it easy as a programmer to predict, but an ordinary person that does not have our training will not understand that a console log to hello world in JavaScript is coming next. Humans cannot hold the full amount of written material ever written in their head, but computers can get really close to, especially if you have a really enormous computer. So a large language model is simply a computer program which has been shown a vast amount of text and information and will check the mathematical probability of which words comes next. It's simply doing its best at predicting which words come next in answering your question. With that in mind, let us explore a few important concepts. First, let's talk about tokens. In reality, we see letters forming words and words forming sentences. Language models instead use things called tokens. Tokens are simply a unit of language, a bit like Fahrenheit and Celsius are two ways of describing temperatures. Words and tokens both can describe mathematically language, but tokens are more flexible for their usage in computer programs. So when we describe the price of a model, we split it in two ways. We check the amount of input tokens, which is normally the question you would ask in ChatGPT, and we then see the price of output tokens, which is the amount of words or the amount of tokens that the model uses to answer your question. So we split them around the input and the output. Now let's move on to context. Context is a little bit like the short-term memory. It is the amount of tokens a model can handle at all times. Context is accumulated each time you ask a model to answer you, and each time you have a follow-up question. The problem with context is that there is a limit for each model, after which it cannot retain the information and will start ignoring the information held in the context. This acts really much like a human having just crammed an entire night of studying, and when they come to the exam, now they have the full information in their head, but recalling exactly which information is getting more and more difficult. So to fix this problem, models incorporate the concept of attention, which is in a way pretty similar to human attention spans. A model will look at the full context that you give it, and it will attempt on focusing on the most important parts to answer your question. For example, if you give it the full Harry Potter book, but you want to ask a question about who is Hagrid, the model will try to resurface all of the information it knows about Hagrid when predicting the proper answer to your question. Let's recap quickly. Models are a prediction of text. If I give you text like "they happily lived," you would predict the rest of the sentence to be "ever after." Models do the same on a huge scale. We measure language by words and punctuation, but language models use a different, similar unit called tokens. The amount of tokens model can keep in mind is called context, and their capacity to focus on parts of the context is called attention. I think this is a really good base to start with. The next video will explore the concept of reasoning models. I hope you have a great one, and please subscribe to the channel.